The Clippers do Chris Paul dirty, and the Lakers could be a team that signs him. We'll talk about if it's a good idea. Also, the Giannis to the Lakers rumors, or Giannis being traded rumors, are starting to emerge. And we've got some wild Dodgers trade packages. Could the Dodgers make a big blockbuster trade this offseason heading into the winter meetings? And today, National Signing Day in USC has landed the #1 class, and it could still get even bigger with a 5-star recruit that could flip late to the Trojans. We're going to be joined by a USC insider to break it all down. That's coming up next on the LA Sports Report. LA is the sports capital of the world. The Lakers have entered their Luka Doncic era. LeBron doesn't just want a farewell tour, he wants a farewell title. The Rams are going to win the Super Bowl. Go, Kings, go. The Dodgers are the best run franchise in all of professional sports. Shohei Ohtani is the GOAT. Steve Ballmer will do anything to get the Clippers a championship. Mick Cronin has to win a national championship at UCLA. Justin Herbert is a top 5 quarterback in this league. College football is just better when USC is good. This whole city has the Mamba mentality. I love LA.
Live from the heart of Los Angeles, this is the LA Sports Report with your host, Doug McKain.
What is up, and welcome to the LA Sports Report, your home for all things LA sports, pro, college, Lakers, Dodgers, Rams, UCLA, USC, Chargers, LAFC, Sparks, Kings. They're talking about in the world of LA sports. We're talking about it here on the #1 fastest growing LA sports podcast that covers every single sport here. You know I'm loyal to the soil. If you know me, you probably know me from either covering the Dodgers for Dodgers Nation, radio for Westwood One, doing Locked On Rams, covering UCLA back in the day. I covered recruiting for so many years. So, yeah, it is exciting to start this new channel because I'm passionate about all these sports here in Los Angeles, and I think it's the best city in the world. It's the city of champions. So if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and drop a like and a comment if you want to support every episode. We've been doing giveaways. We're doing more. A Luka jersey is on the way. So subscribe, comment Luka Magic, comment LASR. So you are eligible to win. But we've got so much to get into. Let's get right into it. In the world of LA sports, one of the biggest bruhs of the year in the world of the NBA happened this morning, where Chris Paul was sent home by the Clippers. Chris Paul, arguably, no, not arguably, the best player in Clippers franchise history, he gets sent home after he just announced a couple of weeks ago that, I'm doing my retirement tour, and he got some minutes in Charlotte, and this is a atrocious Clippers team. They've lost 14 of 16, having a terrible year with James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, just can't figure things out in Clipperland, in this city, and they do something that is one of the most embarrassing things, one of the biggest clown moves that I've seen from an NBA franchise in recent history. And it was reported very early after Chris Paul had gone to his Instagram, and he posts a picture on his Instagram that he was being sent home by the Clippers, and it was at 3:00 in the morning. And we are talking about a legend. We are talking about someone who is a top 5 to 7 point guard of all time, someone who was an NBA 75 player, meaning he was one of the best 75 players in NBA history, a guy who's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And Chris Paul, just to get you caught up, he goes to his Instagram and he drops this, and it says, "Just found out I'm being sent home. Just found out I'm being sent home.
Bruh. Chris
Paul, a guy that came back to the Clippers to essentially do a little bit of a retirement tour. Yes, he's not Kobe. I hear you, Draymond Green. Draymond Green yelling, "What you thought was Kobe?" when he yelled to Paul Pierce on the bench. No one's going to get a Kobe retirement tour. That's reserved for the all-time legends. He's not that. He's not a top 10 player. You got to be a top 10 to 15 guy to get the all-time one. But he gets sent home. He's no longer on the Clippers. Now, he didn't get cut because he's still on the Clippers, but he's not with the team. Now, let's dive into it. Let's dive into what exactly happened, because after it was announced by Chris Paul, essentially, that he was being sent home, Clippers president of basketball operations, Lawrence Frank, he texted a statement to ESPN that confirmed that Chris was no longer with the team. In a statement that read, "We are parting ways with Chris, and he will no longer be with the team. We will work with him on the next step of his career. Chris is a legendary Clipper who had an historic career. I want to make one thing very clear. No one is blaming Chris for our underperformance. I accept responsibility for the record we have right now. There are a lot of reasons why we've struggled. We are grateful for the impact Chris has made on the franchise." So for the Clippers to move off of Chris Paul, they're going to have to pay out the $3.6 million salary that he's currently owed, agree to a buyout, or look to trade him, which they can't do until December 15th. Now, like I said, the Clippers have been an absolute dumpster fire. They've been the most underachieving team in the NBA. You can have that fancy new Intuit Dome. You can have a billion-dollar arena, spend a lot of money, but that does not guarantee results. The Clippers have lost 14 of their last 16 games. They've lost 5 games in a row and have a 5-16 record. You already lost Bradley Beal for the season with a season-ending hip injury that happened in early November, and things have just continued to completely unravel. The Kawhi Leonard drama, losing Bradley Beal, James Harden not looking like the great player that he once was. And then you go and do this. Now, Chris Paul had joined the Clippers. Hey, who knows? He could join the Lakers. We'll get into that. Chris Paul joined the Clippers in late July on a 1-year deal at 40, a chance to finish his career with the organization that he spent most of his prime with and a lot of his great seasons. He was with the Clippers for 6 years from 2011 to 2017. And he reported last month that he was going to retire in his 21st NBA season. Now, Chris Paul is the franchise leader in total assists per game. He started 1,314 of 1,354 games. All 82 games last season. So he's known as a starter in this league. Last season with the Spurs, he started. His role with the Clippers was to come off the bench, and he understood that heading into this. He was not going to play every night. He had played in 16 games, was averaging 2.9 points per game, 3.3 assists in 14.3 minutes. He played 15 minutes, had 8 points and 3 assists in his final game with the Clippers in their 140-123 loss to the Heat. But this is another clown move from a clown organization, and one that is in the conversation for being one of the worst franchises in the history of professional sports. Now, the Charlotte Hornets have never made the conference finals. I think they're at the top. The Minnesota Timberwolves have the worst win percentage. They're in the conversation, but they've had some interesting runs. Clippers barely made it to the conference finals. They were there. Lost to the Suns 2021. But this is a team that did something similar when in July of 2017, Blake Griffin, who signed a 5-year, $171 million deal with the Clippers, was traded to the Pistons in January of the following year after they decided to go in a different direction. So Chris Paul, who the stories say, was not on speaking terms with Ty Lue. And that is just another sign of how dysfunctional this team was. Lue wasn't on speaking terms with Chris Paul. The Clippers felt like Chris Paul's style was too disruptive. Shams Charania said that, and Lawrence Frank said that, hey, this was not going to work as a group. It wasn't the right fit. Lawrence Frank said we had conversations with Chris throughout, even before we started, called the onboarding process and throughout. So it isn't like an isolated one conversation decision. No, things were fluid. But this is embarrassing. And the Clippers really need to decide what they want to be as a franchise, because they have no retired numbers. They have no championships. They have nothing to feel proud about as a franchise. Yeah, I'm sure things would be different if Steve Ballmer had owned them and had been able to give them resources across the board for his entire career. But you had one of the worst owners in the history of sports in Donald Sterling, and now you've got this, and you're releasing statements we're grateful for the impact Chris has made on the franchise. Chris Paul should not even attend that jersey retirement ceremony. Chris Paul should never be a courtside seat member at Intuit Dome. Chris Paul should do absolutely nothing for that dumpster fire of an organization. This is something that can curse an organization, because imagine if players are considering to sign there, they're going to get negative recruited too. You're going to have legends saying, oh, I'm going to go to the Clippers. Oh, no, they're going to do to me what they did to Blake Griffin. Oh, I'm an aging vet. I'm going to go to the Clippers to provide some leadership and be a locker room presence and kind of fill in where I need to fill in. Oh, go to the Clippers? No, they're going to embarrass you. Think about this. The Clippers flat out embarrassed and humiliated one of the game's greatest players. And it'd be one thing if Chris Paul had just signed with the team and Chris Paul was playing for any other team, even teams he had currently played for, even if it was he went back to the Rockets or a team like that, or he signed on with the Heat, a team like that takes on some veterans. It'd be one thing if one of those teams did this to Chris Paul, but it was the Los Angeles Clippers, a team that Chris Paul made respectable, a team that Chris Paul made you not laugh at for a couple years in their embarrassing team history. Clippers don't belong. Clippers don't belong with these clown moves. They really don't. And I feel for Chris Paul. I met Chris Paul a couple different times, and he's an intense individual, and I understand that he probably was potentially a little overbearing. But to handle it this way, where Chris Paul had to go to his Instagram and post it the way that he did, this is just bad. The Clippers, after making the terrible move a couple years ago to bring in Paul George and just deplete those assets the way that they did, you're probably never going to recover from that. But now on top of everything else, you have to live with this. You feel for Chris Paul. I mean, Chris Paul has been one of the most unlucky superstars in the history of the National Basketball Association. His trade was rejected by the NBA when David Sterling said, hey, we can't trade him to the Lakers because it would do the Hornets poorly because they were ran and operated and owned by the Hornets at the time. So he could have joined the real team in Los Angeles, the Los Angeles Lakers, a team that has history of winning, and you're not going to disrespect your legends like that, right? Chris Paul, the Clippers waive Chris Paul in the middle of the night. What do the Lakers do for LeBron James? Hey, we'll draft your son. Hey, we'll make sure that nothing gets out about any type of frustrations. Hey, we are going to have your back until you decide it's going to be a career for you. Look what the Lakers did for Kobe Bryant. Look what the Lakers have done for their legends. And then look what the Clippers have done to Chris Paul, the best player they've ever had in their franchise history. But look at Chris Paul, the bad luck. He was traded to the Lakers, and it gets nixed by David Stern. And then he hurts his hamstring in the Western Conference Finals when that Rockets team had the peak James Harden had a real opportunity to beat that Warriors team. And then he blew a 2-0 lead in the finals against the Bucks in a series that could have gotten the Suns their first ever championship and him his first ever championship. And then he was essentially cut. I know it's not officially cut, but he was essentially cut in his final season. Chris Paul, man. It's Chris Paul. Hey, you should have known better. You should have known better. I mean, this is a guy, Chris Paul, that was literally in tears, was literally crying when he went back to the Clippers. When he went back to the Clippers, he was crying. He was in tears. He was emotional about it. I mean, I can't. I mean, this is stunning. This is really stunning. And we'll talk about what this means. Could he be a fit for the Lakers? Bobby Marks, the NBA insider, is saying that it's a possibility that he could go to the Los Angeles Lakers. I mean, we'll talk about if there's a fit there. I mean, do they really need a ball handler? I'm sure he's going to want to go somewhere that's going to show some respect. But we'll talk more about that in a second. But look at this. To think that it went from this in the summertime to getting waived, it's astonishing. Here was Chris Paul getting emotional when fans were chanting his name when he returned to the Clippers, when he announced that signing. So we'll see what happens with CP3, but for Lakers fans that are interested in him, and hey, and maybe David Stern will come back to life and nix the trade again. But as long as David Stern is not involved, he could go to the Lakers. But the problem is that the Lakers have an open roster spot, and it could be an option next month. But they're not allowed to sign a 15th player until January 19th. And Bobby Marks, he did confirm the Lakers could be an option. Now, should the Lakers sign Chris Paul? I mean, should the Lakers sign Chris Paul? Should they bring him in? I mean, it's like the Dodgers getting Albert Pujols. You're not getting that guy. But at least at the very least, it would make you feel better about this. Who remembers this day? Lakers get Chris Paul, the Rockets get Pau Gasol, and the Hornets get Lamar Odom, Luis Scola, Kevin Martin, Goran Dragic, and a 2012 first-round pick. And that pick was going to be for the Rockets. So at least it would be a little therapeutic and cathartic to move on from that. But I don't see it happening from that standpoint. But let's look at a couple more angles to it, because the Lakers could be a fit if either they have an injury or they need another ball handler. I mean, you've seen the rumors today about Giannis, and we'll talk about it in a second. But the first thing is the Lakers have Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves, and LeBron James. You've got Marcus Smart on the bench. I mean, could Chris Paul be a mentor for Bronny James? I mean, I'd probably rather see Bronny James get some more minutes. But the Lakers, I think, are a potential option for a couple reasons. One, they have the open roster spot, so there's that. They can't fill it till January 19th because of the apron restrictions. And they might not want to add that 15 player unless they need to save that money. But still, the spot is there. So that's first and foremost, and that is naturally an advantage that they would have. Other thing, too, he made it very clear that when he came back to the Clippers, he wanted to be back in Los Angeles because that's where his family lives. And then, two, another thing, if you want to add a third, LeBron James. I mean, the Banana Boat crew has been forming. Carmelo Anthony made it to the Lakers. LeBron's already been with Dwayne Wade. Chris Paul, a part of that Banana Boat crew. So, LeBron doesn't have the say that he had years ago, but if LeBron wanted Chris Paul, and Chris Paul wanted to be a Laker and they thought, hey, why not? It's certainly a possibility. It's certainly a possibility, and he knows that this is Luka's team and he would not be able to ruffle any feathers here. Me personally, I don't want to see Chris Paul on the Lakers necessarily unless they suffer a slew of injuries. I still think that he's a 6-foot point guard that's not going to play a lot of defense at the age of 40. Lakers don't need that. And he's not going to be the difference between whether or not the Lakers win or lose a championship. So I'm interested in bringing in championship-level players that can help you get over the top. Chris Paul's a fun name, but he's not that guy that you think he is. He's not the version of Chris Paul that he was in his absolute prime. So from that standpoint, in the words of Randy Jackson, that's a no for me, dog, on Chris Paul. But you could talk me into it if you made a massive blockbuster trade. And of course, I'm talking about the latest on Giannis Antetokounmpo. And the latest on Giannis Antetokounmpo is that he is going to have a conversation with the organization that is the Milwaukee Bucks. And Shams Charania tweet out, just in, Giannis Antetokounmpo and his agent, Alex Sartorius, have started conversations with the Milwaukee Bucks about the two-time NBA MVP's future and discussing whether his best fit is staying or elsewhere. Sources tell ESPN a resolution is expected in coming weeks. So I can tell you from some sources I have around the NBA that he wants to go to the Knicks, that the Knicks is his number one destination. And the Knicks are a team that they don't have a ton of assets for sure. But if he doesn't go to the Knicks and Giannis is in a tough spot, or the organization wants to facilitate a trade at a destination that he wants to go to, if they want to give him his preferred destination because of what he's meant to that franchise, delivering them a championship, then that makes things interesting. Because if the Knicks aren't an option, what's the second option? The Knicks would have to trade whatever assets they have to get the deal done, and the Bucks would have to trade their franchise player, a guy who still is an MVP level player, to someone within their conference. And at that point, you'd be into a down to the studs rebuild. You'd be looking for the future. And the truth is, for teams like the Bucks and the Spurs and teams like that and the Thunder, you've got to rebuild the Thunder way, the Spurs way. You're not getting free agents, especially with the new salary CBA and the aprons and things like that. You're not just going to be able to get free agents anyway because you're not a free agent destination unless you have that pillar like a Giannis. You got to build through the draft. You got to get a lot of lottery tickets and hope those players work out. And it certainly has for the Thunder, who have depth and an MVP, and also a stupid trade by the Clippers, by the way, to send them Shea and all those picks. By the way, the Clippers' downfall could lead to the Thunder getting a top pick. So be careful wishing for that Clippers downfall. Explain more about that later. But with the Lakers, the question becomes, is there any possibility? And this is kind of before we get deeper into it. Anyone saying they wouldn't be willing to trade Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura for Giannis Antetokounmpo, your last name better be Hachimura or Reeves, because that is the biggest no-brainer ever anywhere. Because what I was told yesterday from an NBA insider was the only way that you could convince them to take on Austin Reeves would be if they would be willing to commit to maxing him out on the spot. So the Bucks would have to say, hey, we know that Austin Reeves is walking. We know that he's going to be a free agent. We know you have bird rights to him. But if you include Austin Reeves and he commits to a max deal on the spot, which I think he'd be open to potentially, then you're looking at Austin Reeves as a foundational player. Like, Austin Reeves would be the Bucks' best player moving forward. And if you look at his numbers, I mean, they're comparable to Devin Booker's this year. Is he better than Devin Booker? I don't think so, but he's made a big leap this season. There's no doubt about it. But for the Bucks to get a player like an Austin Reeves, you almost have to do it in these situations where you're acquiring him in a midseason trade and you're getting him to agree to a max? Because what I was told is he would not agree to a sign-in trade to the Bucks, but he might be open to this is all hypothetical, by the way, just fun and games. But a player like that would be interested in getting a max out on the spot. I mean, a guy like Austin Reeves getting maxed out from an undrafted player, making the leaps that he's had, it'd be tough for him to not take on that opportunity. So that's kind of what you consider there. But I think that if you're Lakers, you've seen some trade proposals out there, and the truth is you just don't have a ton of assets till the offseason. But here's what Brian Windhorst said. He was on ESPN LA, and he was asked about the possibility of Giannis Antetokounmpo getting traded to the Lakers and what would have to happen to have that happen. And here's what he had to say.
The Giannis situation is very clear to me. Giannis went to the Bucks and said, would you trade me to the Knicks in August? Doc Rivers said a bunch of things. John Horst said things. Giannis said things. Nobody said that they denied that reporting because it was true. It happened. So, yes, Giannis is seeing a future without being in Milwaukee. And yes, he has a preference, and that's the Knicks. So the follow-up is, well, does that mean he could get traded to the Knicks or somewhere else now? I don't know. Yeah. For him to be a Laker, Giannis has to go to the Bucks and say, trade me to the Lakers. The Lakers can't win a bidding war. But just so you know, he told them he wanted to be a Knick in August.
So there you go. I mean, that's what I was telling you that I heard too, is that he's made it very clear that organization, he wants to be on the New York Knicks. But if things can't happen, we now know that Giannis is willing to name specific teams. And Giannis also stated that he wanted to see European players play for major market teams. Here was Giannis a few months ago talking about Luka Doncic being on the Lakers and how much he approved of that, and what else he wanted to see in European players getting moved to major market teams in the NBA.
Okay, let's say something funny because I took it, Doug spoke very, very serious. Now that a European will be, I believe, the face of the Lakers, this is something new for Europe. It's never happened before. We had Pau Gasol, obviously. He was a great player, and how was it? Vujovic? Yeah. Great guy, one of my close friends, but again, I mess up his name all the time. Now it's I just love it. You know what I want? I want Luka to the Lakers. I want Jokic to the Knicks. I want all the Europeans to go to all the big markets, to see something incredible. This is what I want. This is my dream. But again, wish both teams best of luck. Wish all the players, 5 players that took place. It was 5 players trade that took place. Best of luck with the journey moving forward.
So that's very interesting to hear Giannis say that, because, yeah, he wants to be a Knick. If the Knicks aren't a possibility, would he potentially say, okay, you can't get me to the Knicks, fine. What's the next best option for me? It's the Los Angeles Lakers. And there's not a lot of teams out there, not just in the NBA, but in all of professional sports, that have the international cachet, the international brand that the purple and gold has. So, yeah, it's fun to think about. Is it realistic? Not really, just because the Lakers won't have multiple picks that they could include until the offseason. So I think if you're the Lakers, you kind of have to hope right now that this thing drags on into the summer and that Giannis does not get moved, whether it be to a team like the Houston Rockets or a team like that. And it also makes you wonder, too, after the Nico Harrison fallout, will a team ever want to get traded to the Lakers and move their superstar to the Lakers because of a potential falling out? Do you want that from Bucks fans? Do you want that from pundits and reporters and people around the league kind of making you a laughing stock? So that just kind of makes you wonder, would they do that? And hey, hopefully Nico Harrison could somehow, some way get a job with the Bucks and he'd be a Laker tomorrow. But I also think too that if you're Giannis, you have a lot of pull here. And I think there's a respectable Bucks organization. So we'll wait and see, kind of monitor that, see how that goes. But what you need to know right now is, one, whether or not it's the Lakers or another team, Giannis has made it clear to the team, to the Milwaukee Bucks, that he wants to discuss a resolution. And if they come out of that meeting saying, okay, Giannis, we respect you, we respect your wishes, we're going to explore a trade for you, then all bets are off. Everyone's available. Everyone. Outside of Luka Doncic, every single person on the Lakers is available. Everyone. There's no doubt about it. You could not make, there's no logical argument that would indicate that you would keep Austin Reeves over Giannis Antetokounmpo. None whatsoever. I mean, we're talking about an MVP. We're talking about athletically one of the top 10 best players in the history of this sport when it comes to just pure raw talent and athleticism, and he still's got MVP years left in him. So you would have on the Lakers the two best European players, really, along with Jokic and Wembanyama, but you'd have the top two as far as two on the same team. That'd be the best European duo in the NBA, not even just for this year, but for the history of this league. But you'd also have two of the four MVP contenders for this season. You've got Jokic, you've got Wemby, you've got Luka, you've got Shea, you got Giannis. I mean, you had a fifth there, but still, I mean, you got legit MVPs. We're not talking about all-star. We're not talking about all-NBA. Truth is, Austin Reeves should make the all-star team this year, and I am very, very pleased with the way he's played this season. No doubt about it. But you have a chance to get an MVP if that would be the case. I don't even think that's a possibility right now, but in these hypothetical trades that have Rui and Austin Reeves and things like that, there's no doubt about it. You don't even think twice about it. You literally don't even think. You beg that they would take an offer like that for a certified MVP. You compare Luka Doncic, and you worry about the pieces later. And then you consider a Chris Paul, because Chris Paul could fill up a spot on the bench too, and that's kind of where you need to be. All right, so we're going to switch gears to one of the most exciting days of the year in college football, and it is National Signing Day. National Signing Day, and USC has signed the top class, but it could get even better. Chris Henry Jr., of course, his dad played for the Bengals. Modern day 5-star, top 20 recruit, was committed to Ohio State for a long time. Ohio State, of course, is a college football receiver factory. Jackson Smith and Jigba, Marvin Harrison Jr., need to see a little more, but Chris Olave, Michael Thomas before that, Garrett Wilson. You're going to have Jeremiah Smith. Emeka Ibuka this year has been great. So many talented Ohio State receivers. Go back, Terry Glenn, Joey Galloway, Paul Warfield, Chris Carter. They've always produced big-name wide receivers. Santonio Holmes, Terry Glenn we talked about, Ted Ginn Jr. This list goes on and on. So Chris Henry Jr. want to be a part of that. Only issue is their offensive coordinator and previously their wide receivers coach, who was responsible for building this pipeline of elite wide receivers to Columbus, Ohio to join the Buckeyes. Brian Hartline's now the coach down in South Florida. So he's not with Ohio State, and because of that, Chris Henry has opened up his recruitment, and he gave an update an hour ago. He tweeted out, "I have not signed yet. Still trying to weigh my options due to coaching changes. I just want to make the right decision for my future. God's plan." So you've got USC as a possibility, Oregon as a possibility. Ohio State is still in the mix, and he said he could announce today or tomorrow. So that's exciting stuff, because USC has already put together a great class. You got 33 high school recruits, 34 total, one JUCO guy. You got some 5-stars in there that we'll talk about, and you definitely got some big names. But Chris Henry Jr. would take an A class, A plus class, A plus plus elite all-time class, really, for them, based on, and this reminds me of the old days of USC, where they were recruiting 5-stars left and right. So that would be a major development for the USC Trojans. But before we get to our interview, before we get to our guest, I want to read some comments here. Thanks for rocking with us here on the LA Sports Report. We'll talk about UCLA, too, recruiting. We'll do that tomorrow. Not, a little less eventful with the program. Definitely influx a little bit. We got new coach Bob Chesney that's still doing his thing. We got D-Mac might go. What up, Roseman? What up, Nando? Chris Paul has been ass, though. DFA him. Yeah, he hasn't been great. What's up, D-Mac? Yeah, we're talking some Dodgers a little bit. SK Wonderful Lakers just announced no Luka tomorrow. So Luka Doncic is out tomorrow, and that's not good. You need Luka out. You need him in. Had 9 turnovers his last game. And, yeah, the Lakers did announce that Luka Doncic is not going to be in on Thursday. Is the opening leg of a back-to-back on the road. It's a personal nature of his absence. So what's the reason right here? We got personal reasons. This is from Dave McMenamin of ESPN.com. So Dave McMenamin, he is reporting that Luka Doncic is out for personal reasons. So, hey, whatever Luka Doncic is dealing with, I hope he's okay. Hope it's nothing serious, and we'll get the Don back as soon as possible. So, hey, this is a good opportunity for LeBron James with a couple days rest to take on some more of the scoring load and have his best game since being back, and you need a big night from Austin Reeves. But that is the latest. So Luka Doncic out for Thursday when the Lakers get back in action. A nice little break for the Lakers right now after those back-to-backs, but it's going to be a tough game. They'll be in Toronto. Hey, hopefully Lakers can beat them like the Dodgers beat the Blue Jays. Blue Jays lose. All right. I got my man who covers USC football about as well as, and let's do some more here. Some more comments here. We got imagine CP3 goes out of chant for LA. Would be so funny from Wadib. We got Craig Osterberg 69 saying D-Mac, what's up? What is up? We've got Mr. Classic. Hell no, we need Reeves. Trade LeBron for Giannis. Everyone would do that for sure, but that's not going to happen. I mean, that'd be tough. Giannis for a 42-year-old SoCal Red. What is up, SoCal Red? Rocking with us in the afternoon, my man. We've got he's not going into New York from Gary. Otherwise, perfect list. We have 0 assets because LeBum wanted Brody. He said Jokic to the Knicks. He doesn't want the Knicks. Giannis wants Jokic. No, Giannis, I can tell you that he wants to be a Knick. He said to the organization. But in that comment that he made there, he said he wanted Jokic to the Knicks. And I think that was with him still being in Milwaukee. That was kind of the perspective there. R.I.P. Eldon Campbell. Yeah, that hurt, man. I think Eldon Campbell died at 57. If you follow the Lakers in the late 90s, early 2000s, Eldon Campbell, former NBA champion, and the 80s, he was a first-round pick in 1990 from the Lakers. Played in 1,044 NBA games, scored more than 10,000 points, 1,600 blocks, averaged 10.3 points and 5.9 rebounds per game. Averaged 14.9 points per game. The Lakers playing alongside Shaq and Kobe in 96 and 97. But his best statistical season was 99-2000 with the Hornets, where he had 15.3 points and 9.4 boards. Also played with the Hornets and the Supersonics and New Jersey Nets before retiring in 2005. Yeah, Eldon Campbell, I'll never forget this half-court shot he made against the Sonics, like circa 96, 97. But yeah, Eldon Campbell, R.I.P. Lakers, number 41, passed away at 57, a former Clemson Tiger. But all right, USC heads, recruiting heads. We've got a guest we're going to bring in here. We're going to talk some USC recruiting. And look, I just want, after you guys watch this interview, you guys know I'm a UCLA Bruin through and through, UCLA grad, love UCLA more than anything. But after this interview, you have to admit that no one is more objective when it comes to talking about really anything than me. I will put my objectivity on the line. There's no bias for me when it comes to talking about USC. You let me know down below when you watch this interview, because I got my man, Mark Kulkin, who covers USC for Rivals and On3, also hosts Locked On Trojans. No bias whatsoever. I call it how I see it. I'm out for one thing and one thing only. That is the truth. And the truth is USC is a top 5 all-time program that should be perennial national title contenders. And I think this is a big day for the Trojans. So let's bring in my man, Mark Kulkin. And after this, we'll talk some Dodgers
And
trades.
welcome back to the LA Sports Report. And today, signing day in college football. And here to break it down, USC. We are SC writer for the Rivals and On3 Network. We're also the host of Locked On Trojans. Of course, we're part of the Locked On family. I'm Locked On Rams. We have the Locked On Trojans here. And it is one of the most exciting, one of the busiest days in college football. And USC made a major statement today, Mark. And by the way, if you're going to check your phone throughout this entire interview, I would prefer that in the event that something big happens. As we talked about before the show, you still have Henry dealing with the news that Brian Hartline down in South Florida taking that job, learning on his way to school that Hartline's no longer at Ohio State. Of course, that big 5-star from modern day. But Mark, just initial thoughts about the big flip that USC got today. A 4-star from Ohio State is now headed to USC. How surprising were you of that development? How big of a play is that for the Trojans?
So there's been a little bit of smoke behind the scenes going on with this flip for about a week now. Caden Dixon-Wyatt staying home. He's from Northern California, from Oakland, went to high school down there at Mater Dei. There's been some smoke. And so am I surprised? Not as much as I would have been had I not known about it, but it's a pleasant surprise for USC to all of a sudden say, you know what, Ohio State? We're going to keep him home. We're keeping that fence around Southern California. We're going to keep those best players. So, yeah, it's great. It just what it did is it pretty much guaranteed USC will finish with the #1 ranked recruiting class nationally. And that's a huge, huge step for this program, trying to get back to, where they belong on the mountaintop in the national championship conversation at the end of the year.
And just the general outlook of this class, it's a massive class, as you pointed out. You got quantity and quality in this class. 34 commitments, 33 high school recruits, 1 JUCO prospect. But it feels like the theme of this class is USC getting back to its roots and recruiting Southern California the biggest way possible. Who are some of the standout recruits coming from SoCal to USC?
So let's just stay with Mater Dei. You've got the #1 tight end in the country, Mark Bowman. USC, I'll use the term, outbid schools like Georgia and Texas for his services. You've got Tom Tapui, who is the defensive tackle from Mater Dei. We mentioned Caden Dixon-Wyatt. Who else am I missing? I mean, there's just so many names that are popping out right now. Then you stay in-house, you got the guys from Sierra Canyon, guys like Brandon Lockhart, Madden Reardon. So you're going after the guys that you need to replace in the secondary. It's just all around. USC has hit wherever they needed to. They went out of state, and they got the top cornerback, maybe in the country, but definitely from the state of Ohio, and Elbert Hill. You got the top running back from the state of Ohio, Sean Alston. So there you're going into the Buckeyes' backyard. You're pulling out those guys. Deshaun Rideau, the running back from Oaks Christian here in Southern California, he's staying home. You've got Samote Katuana, the defensive end from CIF champion Santa Margarita under Carson Palmer. You went out and got 5-star defensive end rush edge Luke Wafel from New Jersey. It's USC is putting like you said, they're putting a fence around Southern California, and then they're going out and they're cherry picking those top guys from around the country, kind of like what Pete Carroll used to do back in the day. And back when Pete Carroll was the head coach, USC was kind of rolling.
Oh, yeah. The golden age, I'll never forget growing up. I mean, it was USC everything. Snoop Dogg's at practice. Will Ferrell is raising the sword. You got Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart. Just a golden age for USC football in the modern era. And I like to bring that up because when I'm growing up, I'm looking at USC recruits and I'm looking at the big top 5 stars. I mean, going back to, names like Joe McKnight and Robert Woods and Mark Sanchez, Patrick Turner, those Matt Barkley, just top level 5-star recruits that it felt like USC would just roll out of bed and all of a sudden they had 3 or 4 of them before the class even got rolling. Who is that guy for this class? Because there's been a lot of talk about the quality of this class, tons of 4 stars,
But then you got Kenai Pepe, a top-level offensive tackle from the IMG Academy. Is he that crown jewel of this class, and how high are you on him, Mark?
So he is definitely one of those crown jewels. He is definitely up there. He's one of the more higher-rated players in this class. Very high on him. You don't see those. It's been a while since you've seen those types of guys coming to USC. Maybe the highest ranked offensive tackle USC had in the last 20 years was Tyron Smith, and we know what he turned out to be with the Dallas Cowboys. This year, so you mentioned Kenai Pepe. I failed to mention Talanoa Ely, the top linebacker from the state of California. He went to Hawaii to play his senior year of high school at Kahuku. But in these past few years, USC has been the bridesmaid for that top linebacker. They were ending up at Notre Dame. USC got back in the mix. They kept the top guy home. So it's that type of stuff that you're bringing up.
Yeah, and the good thing for USC, it's not like the cupboard's bare or anything like that. You got some talent in the program for sure. But if there is the biggest flip possible right now, as we're definitely getting towards the goal line, is it modern day's Chris Henry? We know that he's got all the talent in the world. We know the pedigree that he has coming from his dad being a former NFL player. He was a longtime commit to Ohio State, and Chris Henry Jr. now probably in a state of, hey, what do I do now? Who's going to replace him? Probably a lot of questions for him. How active do you think USC is towards trying to get him to flip late here?
Oh, very active. It is something they are definitely going after. Oregon is going to be the other team to compete with when it comes to pulling that recruitment. And don't count out Ohio State. I mean, they had his commitment for a solid almost 2 years. And I get it. His position coach is now going to be the head coach at the University of South Florida, Brian Hartline. I guess they have an outside shot if he has that kind of relationship with him. But absolutely, USC is in the mix for this. And they're in the mix for a couple of other players as well. There's a reason why USC put out a message on X yesterday that they're not going to have a National Signing Day press conference. They said, stay tuned. USC's on the clock. We'll see you in January. So there's some more stuff going on behind the scenes. Whether they get a Chris Henry, they can flip another defensive lineman or an offensive lineman. We don't know. But I don't think USC would tease any type of negative publicity. So I think good things are on the horizon as well when it comes to that. I guess what I'm trying to say is Lincoln Riley, Chad Bowden, general manager, they're not done yet.
And that's a perfect segue because I wanted to bring that up. Actually, know Jim Bowden a little bit. Chad Bowden's dad, of course, worked as a Major League Baseball GM for so many years. Now works for The Athletic as an insider. And on my show, like everyone knows, I'm a UCLA guy. But I do my I'm as objective as you can possibly get. If you watch my show, you would think I hated UCLA by the nasty things I say about the athletic director and the program. No one hates what the Bruins have done the last 3 decades, outside a couple more years, more than me. But when I get USC fans on my show, Mark, and they say, oh, Lincoln Riley hasn't met the standard so far, the Alex Grinch and not being able to get the defense right, I always say this. In the last couple of months, I say he's a hamstring pull away of Caleb Williams for making the CFP his first year and winning him the Heisman, helping win the Heisman, but also the first real year with a legitimate GM and a concentration on NIL. They pull the number 1 class. It almost feels like this is almost year 0, year 1 for Lincoln Riley in this new chapter, and you got to be patient. But I mean, I'm asking you, you're the guy, you're the expert here on what is your feeling towards Lincoln Riley? Because USC fans seem to be either split or, I mean, I've seen wild stuff last 24 hours that he's sending feelers for the Penn State job, the Florida job. It's, you know how it is in college football. It's crazy, but just give me your thoughts on Lincoln Riley and what this class means to him.
Absolutely. And the player I was forgetting from modern day real quickly, Sean Scott, linebacker. Wanted to make sure I got that in there. So as far as Lincoln Riley, look, I'm very similar to you, Doug. I am uber critical when it comes to USC. There is a standard. And when I don't see that standard being met, I will be the first person to criticize. I try and be fair and balanced about it. But you raise some very good points. This is really the first year that USC has gone full-fledged all in with NIL. They brought in Chad Bowden from Notre Dame to be the general manager. That has had a significant impact. They've also, they are focused on keeping the best in Southern California at home. So all that's coming into play. I don't like to say, well, this is really Lincoln Riley's second year. This is the end of the fourth year. Sometimes you can say, you know what? He made a mistake. He kept Alex Grinch around too long on the defensive side of the ball. That was the yoke around his neck. Not focusing on Southern California recruiting maybe as much as he should have. But yes, the program is definitely pointed in the right direction. They're playing the game the way the rules are set up now. Some might not like it, but you know what? That's the power of USC. They've got all the natural resources in their backyard. They've got the financial resources if they need to dig into that to bring in the players. You've got the Bloom Football Performance Center that's going to open up in 2026. So everything is aligned for Lincoln Riley to say, all right, we're bringing in the best recruits. We've got the infrastructure set up. We've now recruited for the last 3 or 4 years. We're not going to be reliant on the transfer portal, which I think also hampered the program a little bit. So yeah, going forward now, there are no more excuses. I know the schedule is going to be more difficult in 2026. A lot of people want to point to 2027 as the year USC fans should really be excited about playing in a national championship game. But for me, 9 wins is literally the floor. That should be the bottom line baseline. 10 wins should be the goal every year. And if you're winning 10 games at USC, playing in the big conference, chances are you're going to be in the playoffs when the committee makes those selections.
Yeah, that is a brutal schedule. I took a look at it yesterday. You go at Indiana. We'll see how that plays out next year. At Penn State's never easy with the crowd. Who knows what they do? Their recruiting class has like 2 people on it. We got Oregon, you got Washington, at Wisconsin, Notre Dame, UCLA, of course. That will probably be
the Coliseum as well.
Ohio State, the Coliseum is going to be a massive one. But that Ohio State, Oregon is and Washington definitely could be a gauntlet. But look, in the past, it was USC that you see on your schedule, and you're like, holy crap, like we don't want to play those guys, right? And that's kind of how it really needs to be. And I read some interviews with Chad Bowden. And just getting back to what you said about NIL and their commitment to NIL and being aggressive from that standpoint. And, just kind of rewind the house settlement. Schools can now play the student athletes $20.5 million per year. And most schools are going like 75%. But is USC at the level of Oregon, Ohio State, Texas? I mean, where do you think they are from that standpoint? Because the way I look at it is this: if you can get anywhere near there, if I'm USC, I'm saying, we're USC, a top 25 school, just academically, which, hey, man, doesn't around football will help you from that standpoint.
Right.
USC is cool. I mean, the uniforms, the aura, the lore behind it, the NFL factory, living in Southern California, all the connections you bring. If you can get close to those guys, you don't need to have more than them, but if you get close to them, I think USC has such an advantage. But just kind of where are they at as far as the other big NIL programs? Are they kind of near the top there?
Yeah. Yes. They are. I mean, you could talk to certain other programs and say USC's kind of past us. So as long as USC is in that same conversation with the Texas, with the pick a team out of the SEC, LSU, Ole Miss, Georgia doesn't really play the NIL game, but they're competitive with it. But yeah, USC is in that same conversation with Texas, LSU, Ohio State, Oregon. When you're hanging out in that same room, and you have all the other advantages that USC has built in, good luck. Good luck competing against USC, especially when they start winning on the field. Because when
they start rolling, they have so much momentum when they start rolling. But give me some guys for this class that you think could have an impact in year one.
Well, I think you got to start right off the bat with the tight end, Mark Bowman. He comes in, there's going to be immediate playing time for him. And if he is everything that he's cracked up to be, definitely one of the guys that can play right away. I think at linebacker, you got to talk about Talanoa Ely. If there is a weakness on USC's defense, it's been at that position at the linebacker spot. So he's a guy who can come in. I definitely think running back, you can look at the 2 guys coming in. You got Sean Alston from Ohio State. You got Deshaun Rideau from Southern California. Wide receiver. There's going to be a lot of opportunities there, especially if Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane both take off. You talk about guys like Caden Dixon-Wyatt. He has a chance to come in and play. You mentioned the offensive line, Kenai Pepe. Maybe. We'll see. You don't want to be too reliant on a true freshman to play offensive line, but every now and then you get somebody in who just is ready to play. We'll see if he's one of those guys. And then on the defensive line, USC was young there to begin with. So we'll see if a guy like Luke Wathel can come in and start earning time in the rotation. But last year they brought in Jakeem Stewart, Floyd Boucard. Those two are going to be mainstays in 2026 as true sophomores. They were part of the rotation as true freshmen. So the future is bright. There's a handful of guys. Maybe Madden Reardon in the secondary can jump in and play nickel. He's just got that honey badger type of attitude. Don't throw the ball in his vicinity. He will pick it off. He's got that type of game. Even though, you only see him as a 3-star. So there's plenty of guys in this class that have the potential to have an impact in 2026.
So as far as the defense goes, the concern level, D'Anton Lynn feels like the aggression's there, feels like they're still committed to him. But what do you think is the biggest key for this USC defense to look like one of those perennial national championship contender USC defenses that we saw in the past?
Yeah, first thing, I'll start up front with the front seven. They have to get more production from their defensive ends from the rush edges. They started out great, really strong. They were actually leading the country in sacks. Then the schedule got a little bit more challenging. Same thing with the stopping the run on the interior. USC was pretty good against the run this year until they faced a team like Notre Dame, Oregon, where USC, it kind of showed, all right, here's our weakness. And then again, second level linebacker. I'm of the opinion they need to get bigger, stronger. Look, I know a lot of programs like to use that linebacker in the 225 to 230 pound range. I think in the big conference, you need to have at least one thumper, some guy in the middle who's 245, 250, that just likes to stick his nose in there and create the contact, not wait for the contact. And then you got to, in the secondary, you got to get a little bit better, a little bit more experienced at the corners. USC's going to be fine there, though. They got a lot of players in there that played as freshmen, as redshirt freshmen, true sophomores. So that experience will bode well for them coming up in this next season.
As far as their quarterback for the 2026 season, do you think there's any chance Maeva comes back? Or are you expecting it to be Longstreet? What's your outlook on the QB spot?
Well, in a perfect world, they both come back. And here's the reason why. Lincoln Riley, I don't think he's really ever used a 2-quarterback system, but you don't have to worry about Huson Longstreet and his red shirt. He kept that this year. He only played in 4 games. So now you can say, all right, Jaden's coming back. He's going to be the starter if that happens. He's probably going to be one of the front runners for the Heisman Award. But if you have them both back, Lincoln Riley can say, now I can play a 2-quarterback system. I can have specific packages for Huson, who's really athletic. You never know if he's going to run the ball, if he's going to throw the ball. You can have him on the field at the same time. So there's a lot of advantages there. If Jaden decides to go to the NFL, now we've got a whole new ball game. Now you have to go to the transfer portal. You have to find a quarterback with some experience. Otherwise, you've got Longstreet. He'll be a redshirt freshman. And you got Jonas Williams coming in as a true freshman out of Illinois. You probably need to have someone with a Sam Heward type of experience. Maybe not the guy who's going to jump start and become a starter, but someone you can say, all right, if I need to, I got him, back here. We'll see what happens. It's a rich person problem. You like the problem you have, but Coach Riley has to make a decision on which direction he wants to go.
And the good thing is whoever they have, they're going to have a guy that can develop him. A couple more quick ones. So you don't believe at all whatsoever that Lincoln Riley was sniffing around at any of those other jobs? I mean, he's got it good at SC. It is a giant that's waiting to stand tall once again, and just all the investment in this recruiting class, the potential that they have. It'd be shocking if you go to Penn State. I don't even think Penn State's not a better job than USC. Florida's not a better job than USC. So it doesn't make any sense to me. But what say you to those wild rumors? I don't even know if they're even worth talking about. Just I see them on Twitter, see them on the message boards. It's almost fun to talk about. But what's your reaction? Think it's just ridiculous and silly?
No, I wouldn't say it's ridiculous and silly. I understand the concern. I mean, in today's college football landscape, look, Lane Kiffin, he had it. He had it made at Ole Miss. They're going to the playoffs. They're 11-1. They could build a statue for him right now. but he's taken a couple more $1 million to go to LSU. Why? What is he going to get there that he can't get at Ole Miss? Bigger brand name? It's not about getting the recruits. He can get those at Ole Miss. So I understand where fans are concerned. Hey, maybe Penn State's just going to throw everything at Lincoln Riley, and he can be in the middle of nowhere, be that big fish in a small pond type of thing, and see if he can build that program up. I don't know why he would want to do that when you have everything you need in Los Angeles. You don't go from Oklahoma to USC to say, all right, well, now I'm going to use USC and go to Penn State. That's not, I don't even know if that's a lateral move. That might be a step down just because of everything that USC has compared to the Nittany Lions program. So I get it. I understand why there's concern, but I'm not giving it a whole lot of thought, to be honest with you.
Yeah, the only way that you could argue that USC isn't a top 5 job is if they didn't have their NIL together. And now they do. There's no doubt about the fact that it is. And I think, too, just from he just looks like he fits USC more than he would fit Penn State. And I think Florida is, they're spinning their wheels down there. So I totally agree with you. All right, last question here, Mark. Unrelated to recruiting. You can only wear one USC football player's jersey for the rest of your life. Which USC legend are you going with and why?
So if I say number 42, most people think Ronnie Lott. When I say number 42, I'm thinking Ricky Bell. That was the first USC Trojan as a young kid. And I said, whoa, I like what that guy's doing. Unfortunately, he's not with us anymore, but it would be number 42. And if people want to confuse Ricky Bell with Ronnie Lott, I'm good with that. I'm fine with that. 2 legends.
Hey, that's a clean jersey. 55. It's tough not to go with 5 for Reggie Bush, but hey, look, I like that they went back to the stripes, but that era with the kind of they brought those back. Those are super clean too. But thanks again, Mark. We appreciate all you guys out there, USC fans. If you don't already, definitely subscribe to his podcast. It's the #1 daily USC podcast, Locked On Trojans, and read all of his work and analysis on the Trojans at wearesc.com, part of the On3 and Rivals Network. Mark, go back to work, go do your thing, and enjoy the rest of this signing day, my man.
Doug, thanks for having me on. Let's do this again. Everyone, you know what to do. Locked On USC, wearesc.com. Take care.
I can't go that far, but I just kind of did. But all right, there we go. You tricked me into it, Mark. But all right, man. See you later, my man.